Good evening. Welcome to the Friday Study Circle, where we are reading passages from the book The Sunlit Path. And before we begin, just taking a few moments to gather ourselves, to center ourselves, to bring ourselves fully here. Let's do this by focusing on our breath, taking 3 to 4 breaths with full attention, with full consciousness. How distracted the being is, we can know by this simple practice. One breath, two breaths, and there's something that wants to come in. That's my state. And it doesn't have to be that way. So praying for stillness and praying for receptivity, invoking Mother's presence and grace. Thank you. So we are reading about surrender. Last week we had done 2 passages. First we had done was yoga is affected through offering, and then we had taken up empty contemplation. I had left a few minutes early, but according to me, this was done, the empty contemplation. If it's not the case, if I don't know, Sadaji, I think you were here, then you can let me know. Otherwise, I'm planning to start with ascetic methods.
Yes, I think we can start with ascetic
Okay.
methods.
Okay, sorry, Meera, I didn't realize it.
No.
Okay. So, Meera, since you're already unmuted, would you like to read this for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mother, for self-mastery, are not the ascetic methods useful sometimes? No, you cure nothing. You only give yourself the illusion that you have progressed. But you cure nothing. The proof is that if you stop your ascetic methods, the thing is even stronger than before. It comes back with a vengeance. It depends upon what you call ascetic methods. If it is not to indulge in satisfying all your desires, this indeed is not asceticism. It is common sense. It is something else. Ascetic methods are things like repeated fasting, compelling yourself to endure the cold, in fact, to torture your body a little. This indeed gives you only a spiritual pride, nothing more. It masters nothing at all. It is infinitely easier. People do it because it is very easy. It is simple. Just because the pride is quite satisfied and the vanity can get puffed up, it becomes very easy. One makes a great demonstration of his ascetic virtues and so considers himself an extremely important personage, and that helps him to endure many things. Should I continue?
Maybe we can pause. There's a whole paragraph. We can read it simple though. Any
Yeah.
reflections, Meera? If you want, you can share. Otherwise, we'll.
Yes, actually, just today we have come out to a little rural part of Tamil Nadu for a few temple visits.
Mhm.
And on the way, there is a ritual where people walk across terrains, like barefoot, and cross over from one place to another. And they do that like over days, maybe 3 days or 10 days. and they have to be barefoot and they have to be dressed in a particular fashion, like one colored clothes, and then that's when they walk over. But you know, this very much relates to that. I mean, it's probably also one of the ascetic ways, but yeah, when I was looking at them also, I was wondering, I mean, so that was one. Another one is inside the temple also, there are very specific rituals that people do. And yeah, like I couldn't like very much relate to what what was happening, and I was feeling quite unsettled within, because like for me like that doesn't mean that I'm close to divine, for example. And while if I see everybody else doing it, like I was not sure like how do I place it, because that isn't bhakti to me, but at the same time I would like to be close to my god. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Meera. Yeah.
So it was almost like some kind of, like I was just very blank, like going in front of the deity or this one. But actually, like, it was a moment of self question, like am I actually wanting to be with my god, or it's just a very blank feeling that I've never felt, like either when I go to the ashram, maybe because I'm used to it. But yeah.
I think when we see such practices, right, like which are very set in stone and which don't seem to be making any sense to us, there's some kind of, I don't know, distance, some indifference, at times repulsion one can feel, right? That what is this? And yet,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And yet, when I look at my own life, there are things I'm holding on to too, right? Which I say I do in the name of, say, love. And yet, they might not have any bearance to the truth, right? Like I might sit and do certain things. I might, I don't know, prepare something for the God. And if it's not prepared well, I might, feel alarmed. If I drop something, say a mother's picture, for example, I might say that, oh my God, what have I done? And yet, these things mean nothing, right? Like, so I think it's just if I have to use it in the right spirit, I can just look within, right? I can just look within whenever I see something outside which doesn't make sense or which seems to be giving resistance. And I think that's one of its major reason why it's there. And I think again that acceptance, right? That for my, because we all somehow operate from a limited thinking, right? We keep drawing circles around ourselves that this is it, this is it. And so does everybody else, right? This is their circle, and when I look at somebody sitting, without any issues inside the, I don't know, Lakshman Rekha that they have drawn around themselves, I can just reflect on my own, foundations, my own jails, so that I can be a bit more free, maybe if I see something that I am holding on to. But totally relate to what you are saying. And it's good. It's good to see these things, to see that what all is done in the name of spirituality and religion, and just reflecting on what am I doing in its name, and can I refine it further, purify it further, give it less definitions. And yeah, but good, great observation and reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taru, it's me now. Till now, Meera was speaking. Today, she's also attending the session. Yeah. So, for my experience was, I was, going into myself, going deep into myself. What is this? Outside, are see, we are, it is always easy to comment on others. But I was, examining myself. How am I in this crowd? What am I doing there? Are you praying? What are you praying? What are you doing? If everybody are doing some rituals, then what are you doing? Are you part of them? And one more thing I saw, see, the priest, people were, buying all the offerings, this fruits and coconut, everything. The priest was, just touching it and he was giving it back. So I was thinking, how would that people, the person feel? They wanted to offer it to God, but it was too much crowded. All the temples were too much crowded, so the priest also couldn't help it. He has to just touch it, and he was also giving it back. Then that time, when we were standing in the queue, I was thinking, see, the attitude in which it is offered is very important. So not that the very thing. See, more than all the malas and fruits, we have to offer our heart to the divine. That was the essence which from which that that beautiful thing taught me so many things. It was very interesting to see myself than other people there. It was really beautiful. Yeah. So what we read today was very much resonating with that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
The judging mind doesn't stop, right? It has to comment, it has to basically make sense out of everything and find something which is appears to be more comfortable. Say for me, I might say that, just offering my heart is everything. Somebody else might come along and say, but the heart is already offered. There's already oneness. Why even be there? So just, I think just whatever stops us from, whatever can stop us from, I don't know, judging myself, others, and just accepting everything is beautiful. But yes, yeah, thank you for sharing the same. How it's amazing that we are at one place and we have so many different thoughts, the same things, providing different flavors. Yeah. So ascetic means like, severe self-discipline. I guess, yeah. And I remember, in one of the documentaries of Buddha that I had seen, which was supposed to be quite authentic, I don't know, but it was portrayed as one. It said that, before he had taken up just that resolve under the Bodhi tree that he would just sit there, he had really tried varied things, right? Like starving himself and all those harsh self disciplines. And it was said that he nearly died, right? Like he was almost gone. And then he realized that if I don't have a body, it would not be possible for me. I can't attain enlightenment if I'm dead, something like this. So it's really amazing what my sticky mind, my sticky nature can sit on, right? Like, okay, if I'm able to do something, I'm able to do self-discipline or anything. I sit on it, right? Like, wow, I did it. And how mother had cautioned, and especially we see it in the passages of Sunlit Path, more as we go further when she talks about, social service and this, that how they can do more harm than good if we are not watchful, if we are not careful, because we have a tendency to say, I did, and that's it. And then the whole, the I machine starts. So just reading it again, just to reflect on it. And at any point, if there's anybody who would want to say anything right now, even of course, please unmute and share. So here we are talking about ascetic methods. So the question is whether for self-mastery is it not useful? So mother clearly says no. She doesn't say maybe. She says no, you cure nothing. You only give yourself the illusion that you have progressed, but you cure nothing. That okay, if I say I don't have to eat this or go there or something like this, and when I'm able to do that, There's an illusion that you have progressed. The proof is, and we have seen it if we are honest, that the moment we stop, the thing is even stronger than before. It comes back with vengeance. It depends upon what you call ascetic methods. I really like this line where it says, if it is not to indulge in satisfying all your desires, this indeed is not asceticism, it's common sense. So if I am kind of stopping myself from indulging, I cannot call that asceticism. That's just common sense. It was a good way of putting it. It is something else, he says. Ascetic methods are things like repeated fasting, compelling yourself to endure, basically torture your body a little or more. So this gives a spiritual pride, nothing else. It masters nothing at all. People do it because it's very easy, it's simple, and just because the pride is quite satisfied and the vanity can get puffed up, it becomes very easy. One makes a great demonstration of the ascetic virtues. And what Meera and Sadhji were sharing was also one of those things, I believe, because it looks big, right? And so considers himself an extremely important personage, and that helps him to endure many things. Yes. So just being watchful of where am I slipping this time. So if there's anything, please do share. Otherwise, we can go to the. Yes, if anybody is willing, if they can read this for us.
I did. It is much more difficult to master one's impulses quietly, composedly, and to prevent them from showing themselves, and much more, without taking ascetic methods. It is much more difficult not to be attached to the things you possess than to possess nothing. This is something that has been known for centuries. It requires a much more greater quality not to be attached to the things one possesses than to be without any possessions or to reduce one's possessions to a strict minimum. It is much more difficult. It is much higher degree of moral worth, simply this attitude. Nothing comes to you to take it, use it. For one reason or another, it goes away, to let it go and not regret it, not to refuse it when it comes, to know how to adapt yourself and not to regret it when it goes.
That ends it. Any reflections, Nandini?
Yeah, I was just thinking about mother, and I'm forgetting the name. I was speaking to one of the sadhaks in the ashram, Nandita Di. She was a teacher actually, and her father was also in ashram, and she came, and they were really small, um, and she was I was talking that that how did you become a teacher, and because I'm also in teaching, and I like to ask, and she says mother, like my our inspiration was the mother, because she was the one who started school, she used to teach, and one of the things that she told me touched me so much that and I said, what was her method, like what did she do and all, was she a strict teacher, or was she said no, she was not strict. She was strict too as well at times, but most times, she was really somebody who used to really encourage questions in the class. And sometimes she used to even leave when we didn't ask questions, because she used to say, "But you guys don't ask too many questions." And so, and she used to say that when we used to And sometimes when she used to ask questions and we give answers, she had always some treat, you know. And she used to give the toffees to us, small treats. And we'll keep getting them, and then a sudden one day we'll do something really good, and we would expect that the toffee or the sweet will come, and she'll not give it. So, and I really felt bad as well, that, that, like, why did I get that sweet? I answered so well. And I went and I asked the mother, I went separately to speak with her. And she smiled and she said, but that today I gave you the biggest treat, like the sweetest sweet. And she said, she didn't understand because I was still a child. And she said, I actually gave you the sweet of detachment, and that's something I really like, that it was not that she never gave sweets, or she never encouraged children, and like parents would say, oh, you should not give chocolates to children, and this is not good because then they will keep asking. But actually to kind of develop a relationship where you teach them both, to get, but to be okay and to smile, and to not to lose their heart in what they're doing, like. And she said that you won't believe that after that day my enthusiasm in answering actually grew more. It didn't get diminished from not getting. So that's the thing when she said that I gave you the sweetest toffee today, the sweetest sweet today. It actually was the sweetest because it actually taught me that, how our enthusiasm should not be based. Although if it comes, you feel nice, but if it doesn't come, you feel nice too. So that's something I just came to my mind when I was.
Yes, thank you for sharing that beautiful personal interaction. You know how it also kind of shows how about like detachment as well as not letting any pattern form, right? Like, because as soon as we see something happening, like maybe even twice, we say, now I know when I'll say this, I will get that, right? And then the focus shifts from why I'm asking, why am I learning, to what am I getting, right? So to let it be there, yet take it, be there, yet take it sounds like pretty good, and yeah, and good learning at such a young age. And I think, of course, we'll all agree that it is much more difficult to master one's impulses quietly, composedly, and to prevent them from showing themselves much more without taking ascetic methods. Like, ascetic is just a very severe discipline, right? I will not, like, say, if I look at, say, I remember there was a stage a few years back when I got addicted to cold coffee, Starbucks cold coffee, and I would just couldn't resist. Like, it would be like that. It's almost a everyday affair, and it was quite costly, and plus it's not healthy. And otherwise, I never had milk, and the coffee had so much milk. It was surprising. So I remember, like, I just then one day decided that that's it, right? Like, no more for me. So I had to use that for a few months. And then when I realized, when I saw that I was okay now, that urge had whatever, that madness had subsided, I was like, now if I want, I'm free to have it anytime. Like, it's, and then it was like, off and on, maybe once in 2 months, 3 months, if I would want it, I would have it till I didn't feel the need to have it anymore. So I think again, the center from where you are operating, right? Like, I could see in myself that right now, while having it, I would not be able to control. So for me at that point, knowing that this is for a short time, just to put an end to this pattern that I have formed, for me, somehow this discipline thing works, knowing it has worked in the past. So, and we do know that just lot of times it does happen that when we shun things, Especially, I think it's spoken about, say, greed, right? Greed. It's spoken about like other indulgences that if you just push them under the carpet, once you're given an opportunity, they come back more stronger. So it's better to deal with them, to look at them, to see them, like a Aryan, like a Surma, to look at what's coming and see how, where do I put it?
There's also this beautiful example Aurobindo was sharing in one of his talks, and it really stayed with me, and I still think about it. And he said that, like how our attitude should be towards divine is like opening our hands like this, and you know opening it, and whatever we receive, we have this kind of gratitude, that thank you that I've received it, and letting it slip away, so that its hand is open and there's no problem, and divine will actually give you the greatest love, because divine likes to kind of design. The divine actually doesn't like this ascetic kind of a nature, that dryness, that getting dried up, and all this. If you look at the life of Krishna, you will actually see somebody who loves opulence, who who loves that different diversity in food and all of that. That's what divine is full of leela and full of colors and full of this thing. And if we kind of remain with this open hand like this, it will come to us too. The problem in us is that as soon as we get it, have we've experienced from the book is like, this is mine now. That's where the suffering. If you don't close this hand and if you leave it like leave it open, wow, I received it like with an open hand, and I got it not try to grasp it. And we most of the times this answer is this, that we try to grasp things and kind of want them to stay like that pleasure should stay. Or if that
Yeah,
pleasure should
yeah.
stay, or if it
Nandini,
doesn't stay, I'll keep doing things
your audio is breaking
that will
quite a
keep
bit.
on. So
Yeah. Nandini, your screen keeps getting stuck in between. It started fine, but I thought it was just for me. I don't know why it's never happened before, but we could hardly understand what you shared. Is your connection
Oh,
all
do you
right?
want me to repeat it or can go forward?
No, but it's still your screen is still hanged. Yeah, we would love to hear it again, but is there your connection, does it seem to be fine at your
Oh,
end?
okay. I will
Yeah.
I will see my connection, then maybe repeat it
Yeah,
towards
now
later.
it's
Yeah.
moving. Now at least I can see it has
Okay.
freezed for me. Yeah.
So I was just saying that when we were reading it, I got reminded of Alogda, one of the lectures, and a beautiful analogy that he shared was that that like divine doesn't actually like ascetic life, where there is this where there is where you just kind of shun away all the happiness and pleasures and joy of life and kind of shriveled up in a place. Divine is not like that. If you look at Krishna, like you would actually see, his character. He would like food. He would like to be indulgent. He would invite his gopis and everybody else to be with him and, to be in that state and enjoy it. But the problem with us human beings is that if we keep our hands open like this and whatever comes, we kind of say it with a lot of gratitude. Thank you for giving it to me. And you just let it pass. And you know that something else will come. Something else will come because, he's the one who is always giving. His giving never stops. But our problem is the first thing that we get and we like it, we just want to do it like this. We want to close our hands and we close our hands and we try to grasp it. And the moment you do it, you cannot grasp it. It will slip away, just like water. So you can feel the water, but as soon as you try to grasp the water, it will slip away. And that's something that I've always kind of stayed with me. That whenever I have this kind of itchiness and when something it's not looking good to me, I'm hurt. I always look that where am I positioned? Are my hands open? Were my really my hands open where I received it and I kind of appreciated and letting go? Or my hands were closed where I really thought, no, 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 now it shouldn't go. This is what I have got, and that's it. And usually hands are closed where where I just want to grasp that kind of pleasure and keep it with me. So yeah, so that's something that stayed with me.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. So I think that kind of feeling is, yeah, like she used a very nice word in between, itchy. So recently I had this experience where, so something that there was this opportunity that I never tried for, but it came to me. And so in the beginning, I was very balanced about it. I'm like, if it's fine if it happens or it doesn't happen. But in between, I started getting so attached to it. I'm just like, no, no, I want this, I need this and things like that. And then in the end, it slipped away and it didn't come to me for no reason. Like whatever happened, there's no logical explanation of why that didn't come to me. But at that moment, like it was such a pinching feeling. And then it took like maybe a day or two for me to realize that I didn't even know where this came from. So at that time, I was in a state where I was quite balanced, but in between, my mind started developing this notion that no, this is absolutely required, it is needed. And towards the end, it is almost like I was clinging to it as if it is the only thing that matters. And when it went away, it is that real pinching feeling that reminded what exactly Mother shared towards the end, that you behave as if you can't do without it. But yeah, that sense of detachment. What was that line? Okay. Not to refuse it when it comes, to know how to adapt yourself and not to regret it when it goes.
Thank you, Mir. Now, there's something about us that wants to grasp, right? That wants to possess. And because I believe that when I possess, it's then that I become the master. And it takes, a shift somewhere in the being when one realizes that one can appreciate and delight in the beauty of things without possessing them too. Right? Like there's a small child. I remember, when my kid was maybe 2.5, we had gone to a resort where there were beautiful lotuses, like beautiful lotus ponds. And we were given a ride in, that one of the golf carts. And my child said, I want one. And I was like, no, absolutely not. And to my very surprise, the driver got down and he got him a lotus. And I was like, I don't know why he would do that, but and my son was like sitting very proudly that see I hold a lotus and stuff. And within about maybe 1.5 hours or so, it just kind of shriveled, right? Like it was kind of like it was happy and then it was like, okay, it's ready to die. So I again took the golf cart and I took him back and asked him that, see, there were so many in the family in general, right, of lotuses. And see, all of them are happy. They were with their mother, right? Like they were connected. So do you not find them beautiful? He said, yes, I do. And I said, the one you're holding, do you find it beautiful anymore? He said, no, I don't. So in general, this possession that I feel that if I hold it, if I grab it, I would be happier. It would be mine. But it never happens. And once you start relishing the beauty around you, the other day in one of these sessions, we had met Jetsun Mala and she was sharing some examples and she had said something about that when somebody is happy or if somebody is in delight, and that's mother's, has shared that too, that if you are happy in others' happiness, you catch on to that wave. So you naturally become happy. Like it's like a scientifically proven thing that happens. It's not that, oh, now you don't want anything and you've given up everything. So you just look at others and be happy. So when I don't know, it's just grabbing onto somebody's wave and riding with them. So beauty doesn't need to be possessed. It can just be appreciated. All kind of joys. I don't have to be a owner in the set terms. And for me, it took some time to set in, and I don't know how it set in or not. But yeah. And while you were reading it, it also reminded me of, that very famous Krishna story, right? Like I don't remember what exactly was the thing, but there was some lot of flooding, I guess, in the river, and somebody had to cross it. I don't know who it was. And then Krishna said, and Krishna had just eaten a huge meal, like a huge meal. And the person said, how will I cross the river, Yamuna? And Krishna said, you stand in front of the river and say that if, like the one who has not eaten anything has commanded you to give you way, has commanded Yamuna to give this person the way. And the guy was like, how can you lie? I just saw how much you have eaten that we was shocked. How can one person eat so much? And he was like, no, you try it. And it did. And I think in another incident, I guess it was like that one who has never touched a woman, kind of, if you give it away and it gave it. So the thing is that how is it being done, right? With how much indulgence, with how much grasping. Because if we get some kind of luxury, there's something in me that says that, oh, I want it. I want it. I want it again. If I get upgraded to, say, business class, then there's something in me which is like, now I won't be able to travel economy. I have to go to, why? I remember from Jet Sunmala, she had once shared that, after she had come out of the cave, imagine in a cave. And then when she had gone to, I don't know, France or some other city, her friend had a huge, like the person who had hosted her had a huge mansion. And, she was having like, I don't know, a fully heated room with, I don't know, jacuzzi and sauna and whatnot, and a personal attendant who was standing by her side all the time. And she said she felt guilty that what is happening. And then she got this thing that, if it's here, enjoy it. And if it's not here, don't crave for it. Like just because I'm enjoying something doesn't mean I'm clinging to it. So this detached thing that I don't have to sit on it, that yes, now I want it, I think is a very big learning and very needed learning for most of us, because it's a slippery slope. We just say that no, no, no. It's really beautiful. We can read the lines, just go through the lines again. That it is much more difficult to master one's impulses quietly, composed, and to prevent them from showing themselves much more without taking ascetic measures. It is much more difficult not to be attached to the things you possess than to possess nothing. So, holding and not wanting or clasping to it, grasping to it is much more difficult. This is something that has been known for centuries. It requires a much greater quality not to be attached to the things one possesses than to be without any possessions or to reduce one's possessions to a strict minimum. It is much more difficult. It is a much higher degree of moral worth. Simply this attitude. When a thing comes to you, to take it, use it. When for one reason or another it goes away, to let it go and not regret it. We all know it's really tough, right? It's really tough because there's something in me which feels entitled to the things that I have always owned, right? Even if the body, it has get some disease, some pains, anything, a part of me sometimes feels angry that why would it go this way? I don't want it to go this way. Like, it's like a childishness. The ability to keep the hands open, like Nandini was saying, that okay, if something comes, if something goes, and it will come and go. It's when I close my hands is when the problem starts. The clinging, the gasping, the pulling, the pushing, it starts. So simply this attitude, when a things come to you, to take it, use it, when for one reason or another it goes away, to let it go and not regret it. Not to refuse it when it comes, to know how to adapt yourself, and not to regret it when it goes. Yeah, inviting any reflections, it's really beautiful. Not to refuse it when it comes, to know how to adapt yourself, and not to regret it when it goes. My father, we used to go to Rishikesh and Haridwar a lot, and he used to stay in the ashram. So he had shared a story. I mean, I've heard it several times, that once he was in a ashram, and in the ashram there was a stream of Ganges that used to come through it, like next to it and stuff. So once there was this man, my father used to say, there was a saint that he had once, spoken to the head of the ashram. There was the sadhu, the Mahatma, and he had said that, Mahatma ji, like for you and me both, everything seems to be same, right? I have an industry, I do work, I have places where people stay. You have this ashram, it has a food center, it has everything. This also is a business, right? So what is the difference between you and me? You also have to look at the running, that everything is going well and stuff. So he didn't say anything much. He said, "कि आप आज शाम तक यहीं है? Like, are you here in the evening too?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, meet me before the Ganga Aarti starts." He said, "Okay." So he called him when before the Aarti was starting, when they were standing next to the Ganges. And he said that Mahatma, he took some water in his hand, how you take it to make a pran. And he said that, I pray, जैसे माँ गंगा, whatever आरती he would do, कि I pray that मेरा कुछ ना रहे. Like, may I lose anything and everything. And he did it. Like, he put it in the Ganges, that this is what I'm aspiring for. And he called the Seth and he said, now you do it. And the guy looked at him, with like kind of in a shocked way. And he said that I can't. And he said, that's the difference. It's not the owning, it's not the doing, but it's the ability, the lightness with which one is able to just, let it go. It means nothing. It's here, it's great. It's not here, maybe it's greater. So this idea, this image that when I get, I have, when I don't have, I am missing, I'm losing, I am lacking. Those, those dramas, those storylines are not there. So that story I've heard a lot of times, and it really helps me. I think it's a beautiful thing, because it's tough, right? It's really hard to actually, in all sincerity, be okay with letting go of the things you have. The smallest things, when they're taken away from us, we cry out. So it's just a good window of the possibilities. Yeah, there was some message, I think. Yes. Nehi, would you like to read it if you have the capacity to unmute, or should I read it for you? Okay, I'll take it as you can't unmute. So Snehi shares that this reminds me of the quote: to live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, before we move on, any reflections? Arpit, in case you have anything to add to this passage or anything from your end?
Yeah, yes, I just wanted to say that, I mean, with asceticism, I think the the main thing that I think is one of the things that I do like about asceticism is that the discipline part of it, which is something that it feels like that discipline is something that is beneficial to the practice. So I think that is something that I do like about that. But I know that asceticism, as we are talking about it, and as the mother is talking about it, is in terms of mostly like rejection, and yeah, it means like rejection of the whole life and body, and just looking at a way of connecting with the spirit in your own solitude, and that means you are completely like finding that narrow path of connection and completely immersing into that you like literally just leave your body and you're completely gone, and that's the whole thing. But in terms of like preparing your body for yoga and for realization, not only in this life, but even in the higher planes after you leave this life, or if you have connection while in this life, you can also participate in that, in those dimensions. And in that aspect, I feel that discipline is something which can be quite useful, because I mean, like from experience, I think that for example, like fasting, um, yoga, fasting, all sorts of purification that we go through, such as even like purification of your nervous channels and subtle energies, energy flows, the pranic flows in the body, pranayam, and all those practices, they seem to train the body in a put it into such a fit condition that you are able to deal with the universal forces which you do open to when you're doing this kind of a yoga. And because obviously the body is not used to these kind of vibrations, which are, you can say, titanic vibrations. You may not be able to deal with them unless you have gone through this kind of a purification and this kind of a process, which is, I guess it's happening either way. Like, as you said, um, that, yeah, everything happens with the grace. That's true. But I think if we are able to do this kind of preparation as well, which is probably not aesthetic, but it's something similar to that, then that kind of helps out as well. That's just what I think about it.
Sorry, yeah. So I think this line again helps in putting things in perspective, that it depends upon what you call ascetic methods. If it is not to indulge in satisfying all your desires, this indeed is not asceticism. practice common sense. So the discipline that we use, I think, would be more towards this. And ascetism, especially, in this context, in this paragraph where it says it's to torture. Right now, like how it was said that if it's there, you enjoy it. If it's not, then you should not cry out. But would be like rejecting what you have, right? Like extreme temperatures, repeated fasting, or not, say, like we were discussing about the Buddha, like fasting yourself almost to death. So, yeah, so indulging, not to indulge in satisfying all your desires, according to Mother, is common sense. That's beautiful.
Just on that note, about what the mother, like that comment about torture, like what can you do without torture? That's my point. Like nothing is achieved in this life without torture, without going through hardship. I mean, that might be completely false, but that might have some truth to it. That from my experience, if I want to do something, if I want to achieve something, let's say I'm preparing for some physical exercise or something, I want to run for a marathon or something, or even if I run for like 10Ks or something, I still have to run 20Ks, 20Ks just to prepare for the 10K race. So my thing is that I just feel that you can't really do anything without going all the way in. Like you have to put your 120% into something, and only then really you get to something. Otherwise, I mean, this is just life. Like in life, if you're flowing along the river and the river is flowing fine, you will definitely go to the next side, to wherever that's taking you. But if you have to go to the other side, you really have to put your effort into it, and it's a constant, everyday, 24/7 struggle. And I don't know if that's just something that I'm experiencing, but I don't know, maybe it just feels like something that is the way of life right now. Like it may not be true 10 years from now, but right now it just seems like everything is like a struggle, and you're pushing through the wave, and you're pushing, like you're fighting against everything right now.
Yeah, you raise a very important point. Thank you for sharing it. For me, when you were sharing, the image that I got was like, you used two examples. In one example, you spoke about marathon. Nobody's forcing right now, say in this example, for us to run a marathon. We choose to run a marathon for the joy or the delight it brings us. And say, I'm preparing for it. I have to run 20K. But I would say asceticism in this case would be that I say that, okay, I will run without the shirt and I will run without shoes. For example, like maybe going beyond what I need to go just to prove a point. And if that again brings me joy, that's great. But a lot of times people do things to punish the body, to punish yourself that you deserve that. So I think this is what is being referred to, the crossing of the river that you spoke, that flowing with the river. There could be someone who would say that, okay, I would like to flow in the river, but I will tie a rock to myself because I do want to try to stay up when the river is pulling me down. So, there's a joy somewhere that one gets in, there's something called dukh ras also, right? Usse bhi we keep, how it's like there's a wound and you keep pressing and scratching. So just to know our definitions, and, also, how I think it was Ramdas or Hafiz who said that, you can do this as if it's a dance, or if you could do this as if, I don't know, it's a punishment, like something like this. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing. That, देखो तो लीला है और अगर फंस जाओ तो माया है, something like this. So if we are living here, like, how it's hard, of course, like no doubt in that. And yet with the tools, the discipline, the practices that we have of offering of, how it's like the idealism is to aspire to become an instrument of the divine, and the instrument, it doesn't have much in itself. There is no I. So this I who says I am hurting, I am paining, I want to torture myself, just looking at that. So and it's hard and we keep slipping, but there are times when we are able to do it, and that helps us in doing it more and more.
Also, when Arpit you were talking, I felt like, in my opinion, I feel mother has focused so much on discipline. I mean, everywhere she says, like if we go through it, she always says discipline and a routine is so important in our progress. That's why, as you say, in ashram, there's so much emphasis on work, on punctuality, on physical education. And she's not only saying discipline of just your normal life, but of your body, of your emotion. So sadhana has to actually done the struggle that you're talking about, not the struggle in a negative sense, but a sadhana, or what Taru was talking, the joyful sadhana, but it has to be very rigorous. And that is why she says, in your backpack you have to have perseverance. If there is no struggle and if there is no exerting yourself, she won't say perseverance. Also, I was reminded of actually this very pertinent example. During one time, I think it was Nirota, I'm not sure who was stating that there was this, somebody told mother that there is a big sadhu who has come, somebody who has really realized, who has actually stayed in the Himalayas for 15 years, and in such a strong this thing, and he has come. So mother laughed. So they were a little bit, they didn't understand why, but they said, my God, look at, this sadhu, like this is ascetic, who has done so much sadhana in such a harsh climate and all. And mother said, okay, invite him in. And he came in and he had a discussion with mother and spoke. And then mother said, okay, and because she used to play tennis, mother used to always play tennis. And she said, okay, I'm going to the playground. Would you like to join me? And he said, oh, do you play tennis here? I mean, he was so surprised because in his idea, playing tennis cannot be spiritual sadhana. They said, yeah, we all do this. And they went. When he went there, he couldn't really sit still there, and it was like a lot of vital vibration happening. And mother asked him that, is everything okay? Are you feeling okay? And he said, I'm not able to stay here. And mother asked, why, what happened? He said, there are women here in short skirts, in skirts and in short pants, and it kind of really caused that. And later on, mother, when he went away, of course, that's when mother actually talked about this, and she said that this is what happens when we actually delve into the strict disciplines, because our idea is to purify, to actually move from this, it's an evolution from an animal state to a higher state, and that's why the process it uses purification. We don't suppress it. And when you do such, stringent, you keep suppressing them, and they neither get sublimated, they neither get purified, but they take a very vicarious form. So I mean, I was really interested. And on contrary, she was sure Bindo, like as you were talking, everything has to be done with the discipline struggle. Shribindo is the perfect example. He, for 20 years, 25 years, he stayed in a room just because he was concentrating on that supramental descent. He stayed in a room and he did not, like, how hard it is. Like, think of that discipline where you don't even move out from the room to kind of have that severe kind of a sadhana. But once, and this was, I remember vividly, was in Nirodha's book, where he had an accident where his foot actually got fractured or something, like he. And mother told him that, I cannot leave you here. Doctor, of course, came. I cannot leave you here. There has to be three people who have to be in the room to see everything is okay. Like, and Nirodha was there, and two more people were there. And Sure Bindo, in a second, he did not think, oh my God, for so many years, I've been trying to bring this supramental light down and I've contained myself. He just said, okay. Not even once he thought that, no, I cannot let those people with those kind of lower vibration enter into the room. And that sadhu on the other, who stayed in the Himalayas, but just because he saw, I think that's the parallel, because it's what I think they are hinting at, that. And I used to always see mother like as an example of so much effort in doing things, discipline, always on time, like playing tennis, doing this, doing that. So I mean, what they're hinting is this, how, like even Taru was saying, just these two examples, which I think gives a little bit perspective about this, as we were talking about this. What is our intention?
Thank you. Today's discussion again was very animated, and it's really beautiful when things are spoken out of experience, right? When they are not just words that you read. And and I guess that's why the study of the sunlit path always is so amazing, because it's so there in our lives, and these are the slopes that we slip down from. So we did the passage called ascetic methods. So we'll end here today, and next week we'll take outer discipline. And before we, leave, just giving 1 minute to just thank Grace for the opportunity and the beautiful company to be able to relish the words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, the grace that's making it possible. It might not seem much, and yet the clarity that slowly dawns on us when we stay close to these words really helps in, purifying oneself, expanding one's vision. So grateful for that opportunity, and truly wishing that may all beings be well and happy and at peace. Thank you.
Thank you.